People love to talk about the first million, but one earlier milestone often has a much bigger effect on your life. If someone told you their goal was to become a millionaire, would that sound impressive? Probably. $1 million is the number most people associate with financial success. It's the milestone we hear about in books, podcasts, and social media. But here's something interesting. Long before someone becomes a millionaire, there's a much smaller number that quietly changes everything. A number that doesn't sound glamorous. A number most people rarely talk about, yet reaching it can dramatically shift your financial life. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, you'll understand why your first $50,000 may actually matter more than your first million. At first, that statement might sound strange. After all, $1 million is obviously larger than $50,000. But the importance of the $50,000 milestone isn't about the number itself. It's about what it represents. Because the first $50,000 is proof that you can control your money, proof that financial progress is possible, proof that you can build momentum, and momentum is the force that eventually creates wealth. Let's start with something most people experience. The early stage of building savings feels slow, painfully slow. You work hard, you try to save, but the numbers barely seem to move. Maybe you save a few $100s this month, maybe a little more next month, but unexpected expenses appear. Car repairs, medical bills, travel costs, and suddenly your progress disappears. This stage can feel discouraging because it feels like you're always starting over. But once someone reaches $50,000, something begins changing. Not just financially, but psychologically. Because reaching $50,000 usually requires consistent habits. Habits like spending less than you earn, saving regularly, avoiding unnecessary debt, making thoughtful financial decisions. Those habits are far more valuable than the money itself. Because habits are what produce long-term results. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people. Person A inherits $50,000 unexpectedly, but has never learned to save. Person B saves and invests their way to $50,000 over several years. Who is more likely to become a millionaire? Person B. Not because they have more money. Because they have the habits. The $50,000 milestone built through effort is a signal that your behavior has changed permanently. And changed behavior is what leads to lasting wealth. Now, let's talk about another reason this milestone matters. Security. Financial stress often comes from uncertainty, unexpected expenses, temporary job interruptions, sudden emergencies. Without savings, these events feel overwhelming. Even small financial problems can create panic. But when someone reaches $50,000 in savings or investments, their financial environment changes. Unexpected expenses become manageable. Instead of panic, there's breathing room. Instead of crisis, there's stability. That stability allows better decisions. Because people make smarter choices when they're not operating from fear. Think about a job loss. With no savings, you might take the first job offered, even if it's a bad fit or low pay. With $50,000 saved, you have months to search for the right opportunity. You can negotiate. You can wait. That breathing room alone is worth more than the money. Now let's talk about something even more important, compounding. At smaller savings levels, most growth comes from contributions. Your job creates progress. Your money doesn't help very much yet, but once someone reaches $50,000 and begins investing consistently, compounding begins contributing. Let's imagine $50,000 invested with an average annual return of 8%. That investment generates about $4,000 per year, or roughly $333 per month. Suddenly your money is producing additional money without extra work, without additional savings. And as your portfolio grows, that effect accelerates. At $100,000 invested, an 8% return produces $8,000 per year. At $250,000 invested, returns produce $20,000 per year. Eventually, investment returns can exceed your monthly contributions. That's when wealth building truly accelerates. But this process starts with the early milestone. Here's a way to visualize it. The first $50,000 is like pushing a heavy car on flat ground. It takes tremendous effort. Every inch forward is hard won. But once the car starts rolling, the effort decreases. The momentum carries it forward. By the time you reach $100,000, the car is moving downhill. Compounding provides the push. Now let's talk about something psychological. The first $50,000 changes your identity. Before reaching this milestone, many people feel like they're still learning how to manage money. They might think, I'm trying to get better with finances. I'm trying to save. But once they reach $50,000, the story changes. They begin seeing themselves differently. They see themselves as someone who manages money well, someone who builds assets, someone who plans for the future. Identity is powerful because behavior follows identity. Someone who sees themselves as financially responsible naturally continues saving and investing. They protect their progress. They build momentum. And that momentum eventually leads to larger milestones. I've seen this shift happen. People who spent years feeling behind suddenly start acting like investors. They stop checking their portfolio every day. They stop worrying about short-term dips. They just keep contributing month after month. Now let's address something important. Reaching $50,000 may feel difficult, but it doesn't require extreme sacrifice. It requires consistency. Imagine saving $500 per month. In about 8 years, that habit alone could reach $50,000. Increase that amount with raises or additional income, and the timeline becomes shorter. Consistency matters more than speed, because habits are what sustain long-term progress. And here's the encouraging part. You don't need to save $500 per month starting tomorrow. Start with what you can. $100 per month. $200 per month. The habit matters more than the amount. Once the habit is locked in, you can increase it over time. Now let's talk about something people rarely consider. The first $50,000 is often harder to build than the next $50,000. Why? Because once the habit exists, growth accelerates. You already know how to manage spending. You already understand investing. And compounding begins helping. Momentum builds. This is why people who reach $50,000 often reach $100,000 faster than expected, because the system is already working, and systems produce results. Let me give you a rough timeline. Suppose you save $600 per month and earn an average 7% return. Reaching $50,000 might take about 6 years, but reaching from $50,000 to $100,000 might take only 4 additional years. The second $50,000 comes faster because your money is now working alongside you. Now imagine continuing that process. Your investments grow, returns increase, financial confidence improves. Over time, your portfolio reaches larger milestones. $100,000, $250,000, $500,000. Eventually, the $1 million milestone may arrive. But by then, the habits that built the first $50,000 have already transformed your financial life. That's why the first $50,000 matters so much. It's not just a number. It's the moment when discipline turns into momentum, when financial stress begins decreasing, when your money starts working alongside you, and when you realize something powerful. Wealth isn't created by dramatic breakthroughs. It's created by small, consistent actions, repeated over many years. Saving regularly, investing patiently, allowing time and compounding to do their work. Because once those habits exist, the rest of the journey becomes dramatically easier. And everything starts with the first meaningful milestone, your first $50,000. If you're still far from that number, don't be discouraged. Every dollar you save is a brick in that foundation. Focus on the habit, not the distance, and trust that momentum will eventually take over. Thank you for watching. If this gave you a clearer target to aim for, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one, and I'll see you there.